Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Friday, February 12th, 2016. Yes, so many of the neocon GOP fanatics are bowing down, having breakfast, and paying homage to the imperialistic man, Abraham Lincoln, which he was born on his date. But other things he did. It was very interesting. So he had a lot of rough edges, but a lot of stuff was caught in the middle, even with the whole I call it so-called Civil War. So hopefully, if you got offended by it, who cares? But there's a lot of things, a couple of things are happening. I know some disturbing incident that broke out at Glendale High School about some shootings and I don't know if it's a murder-suicide. I've been looking at some of the moments on Twitter. So if that's the case, got other condolences to the ones that passed, the heirs. And I'm just expecting if there's going to be any exploitation and the anti-gun movement is going to go, we got to make tougher firearm laws. Look what happened to our kids. So you got to always look at the bigger picture in these areas. I don't know how accurate it is. I'm not going to exploit it or make any judgments at this time because that's how I am. I want to be really fair and thorough. So that's the thing I'm going to be really, just to give you guys a shot, just let you know. I'm not going to be here to jump the gun by any means. Just make you guys be aware. So I know a couple days ago I did talk about the Bundy, about the whole Oregon standoff surrounding and so forth. And it's interesting now because they looks like the feds are going to try to play who's the boss here. So I'm going to do a few articles pertaining to that. Plus, talk about the one on Huffington Post about prosecutors don't get punished or penalized for misconduct or contempt or any means. And I'm going to do one on the blog about Bernie Sanders from American Thinker. So it's not going to be a long episode. So I'm just going to keep it brief right now. So I'm not going to do any music. I know the Wi-Fi here in the supermarket is pretty crappy, but you know what? That's how it is. Can't complain. So let's just get this down. Let's get this down right now. This one here from the Oregon Standoff. It's on truthmedia.com, by the way, by Rachel Blevins. It says here, Oregon Standoff, Cliven Bundy arrested. Occupiers say they will leave Refuge. As I hear, after 4 remaining protesters at the Valhalla Wildlife Refuge headquarters in Burns, Oregon, spent Wednesday evening on live stream while the FBI surrounded the compound. They have reportedly agreed to leave peacefully Thursday morning. The father of the 2 groups leaders who were taken into FBI custody on January 26th was also arrested by FBI after he flew into Portland International Airport Wednesday night. The Oregonian reported that Cliven Bundy, 74, was booked into downtown Multnomah County Jail at 10:54 p.m. on the charge of conspiring to interfere with a federal officer, which is the same charges his son Amon and Ryan are facing. Okay. This ends here. Cliven Bundy charges, which also include weapons charges, stem from the 2014 standoff with the Bureau of Land Management on his own ranch in Nevada over grazing rights, which ended after federal agents were countered by about 1,000 armed protesters. So they want to put their chest out and go, we're the federal government. We can do what we want. We will get you one way or the other because we are the government. But I will proceed here. Prior to Bundy's arrival in Portland, the Bundy Ranch Facebook page posted a status Wednesday morning announcing that he was on his way to the Harney County Resource Center in Burns and calling for Americans to wake up. Wake up, America. Wake up, we the people. Wake up, patriots. Wake up, militia. It's time. Cliven Bundy is heading to the Harney County Resource Center in Burns, Oregon. Sounds like more of an exploitation, a real good exploited sentiment here, I would say. 4 hours after the first status was posted, the page was posted an update claiming that Bundy just landed in Portland and was immediately surrounded by SWAT and detained. The page that noted that its users were just in contact with the Final Four on the ground and all is quiet. Very interesting here, I would say. You know, can we say possible potential entrapment? Oh, yeah. You never know. The four remaining occupiers at the Refuge, Sean Anderson, 47, and Sandy Anderson, 48, of Riggins, Idaho, David Fry, 27, of Blanchester, Idaho, and Jeff Banta, 46, of Elko, Nevada, also face charges of conspiracy to impede federal officials. Wow. How manly of them. The remaining four, that's the federal agents, that's the whole charging, I would say. The remaining four said they would turn themselves in Thursday morning after FBI agents surrounded the compound Wednesday night. The 10th standoff was broadcast over live stream. And I have put that out there on my past episodes. I don't know if there's going to be a recorded version or documented. I got that from Net News Network. I can thank that person, too, for putting it out there. Even I think it's from someone from Sean of Scene.life. And I thank you for that. As of 8:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the FBI said that they would not make any moves and would wait for Reverend Franklin Graham and Nevada State Assemblywoman Michelle Fuhrer to negotiate the protesters surrendered at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I don't get it. From Nevada? Okay, I'm just going to proceed here. And of course, live stream the standoff and the latest post and all that good stuff. So this is pretty interesting now, okay? Well, the whole thing with the Facebook thing. He's coming. It smells like a plant, I would say, allegedly speaking. Why are you going to exploit Cliven Bundy? Let the whole confounded world know that he's coming to Portland or to Oregon. He is not some Lord and Savior. He's just a humble man who's a rancher that stood for what was right. And the feds are pissed off. Well, boo-hoo. Okay, and I know a lot of folks were really like I would say not dumbfounded but baffled of what was happening over there, which is understandable. But the whole thing you got to really look at is I'm gonna say the whole thing about the live stream and so forth and negotiation. It looks like the federal government is going to try to play that upper hand here. Let's get everyone else from last year because we were very angry. They humiliated us all on video. But you know what? That's what happens when you believe you're smarter than everybody else, okay? People went on their natural-born rights, and they got offended. So I'll say this in the time being for the Cliven Bundy. It's going to be easier said than done. Right now, the federal government has no credibility on these scenarios of tyranny. Folks remember what happened at Waco and Ruby Ridge, and I'm not saying they're chosen by God or anything like that, but it's blown. It just blew. This happening now. Back then, is blown back in their faces today. So they believe they're going to arrest these individuals and Cliven Bundy and say he's conspired to interfere with a federal officer. You know what? I am not convinced they have a meritable case. And anyone's in that jury, we're going to be a jury in the federal jury duty in a federal court. Have the courage to use nullification because you are the most powerful person in that courtroom. And I hope and pray or bless that Clive and Mr. Bundy himself and his other brothers, Amon and Ryan, won't bend over or polish apples and do a pathetic plea bargain, which is worth of toilet paper. Okay, so we're going to just go a little bit further on this whole thing about what's going on in Oregon. And this one here came out yesterday as well from Reuters. It was an exclusive. Woman whose family inspired Oregon stand-up hopes more challenged government. Wife and mother of two men who was imprisoned in January precipitated a 41-day standoff at an Oregon wildlife refuge, told Reuters on Thursday she hopes the peaceful outcome will spur further activism to curb the reach of the federal government. Speaking exclusively to Reuters, Susan Hammond, who did not participate in the standoff, said she hoped the attention brought by the occupation would galvanize Americans to pursue legal avenues for weakening federal government control of millions of acres of land. I don't think it's over. I think it's just the beginning. She said in the telephone review, we have hopes that possibly this will be a beginning of a change in an overreach of federal government, but it's only the beginning. The takeover at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge on January 2nd was sparked by the return prison of Hammond's husband and son, Two Oregon ranchers convicted of setting fires that spread to federal property in the vicinity of the Refuge. Dwight Hammond Jr., 74, and his son Steve Hammond, 47, are serving the remainder of their sentence in federal prison. Yeah, because what happened was the whole thing was they got off early, and the judge was the guy to go back in prison because they did some technicality bull crap, which I find that completely blasphemous. Okay, so I want to continue on here. The occupation of the Oregon Wildlife Refuge was led by Admin and Ryan Bundy as a protest against federal control over public land in the West. The men are the sons of Cliven Bundy, who staged an armed protest over a federal land dispute in Nevada in 2014. Both Bundys were arrested in late January, and Cliven Bundy, who was counseled his sons by phone, was arrested at the Portland airport on Wednesday. Members of the Hammond family hold differing views on the Bundy's methods, Susan Hammond said. Hammond says she did not know the Bundy family well, but had met Almond Bundy on more than one occasion. She suggested that the Bundys were being targeted by the government and expressed her support in the wake of the Cliven Bundy's arrest. I cannot imagine why they would pick up an old man at the airport and charge him with something like that, Hammond said. It's just piling on a government bureaucracy onto the Bundy family. And I have to agree with her on that. They may have some differences, but it is they have things in common. So they have like different avenues, but they have the same principles. So I think Susan Hammond did a good job. They have the courage to speak out on this. And this is I am expecting this to be another chapter at the beginning, because the truth of the matter is, when you study the 10th Amendment and you read Federalist Papers 46 and look up in the Constitution, I remember in the past about the whole thing about the federal lands and so forth. They are doing overgrass in those western states. Okay, and that's totally irrelevant and unacceptable. And what are you using it for? That's the main idea. Are they forts there? Are they like armories? I don't think so. So you have to always examine these areas. And Jonathan Allen did a good job on this view. And definitely, you have to. I'm seeing this as another chapter of a transformation, the transformation of the American people's a spiritual awakening. So we just want to make this peaceful. We don't want any violent confrontations by any means, Lord willing, or whatever belief system is. All right, but I'm just hopefully it can't. If things are happening, okay, that's one thing I have to say. It's dangerous, but exciting as well. So we are living in an interesting time, great time, my friends. So this is why I'm like always have to examine these things more thoroughly and observe responsibly, and always I have to focus on the principle basis. So next one here came from the New American. Came out today, by the way. It says here, Cliven Bundy charged with conspiracy. What about the court charge of conspiracy by BLM? Oh, yeah. And if I'm correct, who wrote this? One moment. Let me see. Who wrote this? One moment, my friends. Yeah. Oh, no big deal. No big deal here, but I just got it on a bigger format. It says here, Cliven Bundy charge. I said it here. Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy, arrested Wednesday night at the Portland International Airport, was charged with multiple felony counts in a federal criminal complaint filed yesterday in federal court. Bundy, father of Almond and Ryan Bundy, leaders of the occupation of the Mount Hope National Wildlife Refuge near Burns, Oregon, is accused of a series of crimes pertaining to the 2014 ranch standoff against the Federal Bureau of Land Management, BLM, to wit, conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States. Huh? So when the United States, that sounds like more like anti-American here. Okay. Assault on a federal law enforcement officer, carrying a weapon in relation to a crime of violence, 2 counts, obstruction of justice, interference with commerce by extortion. Oh, but the federal government does it. That's called justifiable cause, right? Give him a penile microphone for that, will you? Prosecutors said if convicted, Bundy, 69, could face up to 42 years in prison and end up with $1.5 million in fines. Almond Bundy, 40, and Ryan Bundy, 43, were arrested on January 26th. At the same time, FBI, Oregon State Police roadblock incident in which filed Refuge, Occupier Lavoy, Tessium, and an Arizona rancher was shot and killed, according to FBI OSP account of the shooting. Tessium was shot because he was reaching for a loaded gun in his pocket. Well, if you watch the video, I think it's a whole different scenario. However, the only eyewitness who has spoken out thus far, other than the law enforcement spokesman, are 2 women who were in the Vicinium's vehicle at the time of the shooting. I say both Lavoy and Vicinium were shot while unarmed with his hands in the air. There's links for that as well. Conspiracy versus conspiracy. It's not surprising that the left-dominant mainstream media have uniformly support the federal government's jihad against the Bundys, Hammonds, and the Hodges, and other Western ranchers portraying the BLM and Forest Service as guardians of the public lands, while ranchers, farmers, miners, and loggers are caricatured as rapacious rapidish destroyers. Well, go figure. It's the mainstream media. They bend over for them. Okay, they're the Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas of broadcasting, and I say that ethically. Major media have also been reliable propagators of the welfare rancher, Mimi on the radical environmental groups, and the federal agencies. NPR, for instance, in a Federal 12 article on Cliven Bundy's arrest, states that Bundy owes the Federal Bureau of Land Management, or BLM, more than $1 million in leases and fines. This off-reported charge is sometimes inflated to $1.5 million to $2 million. Similarly, the Oregonian reported on February 11th that Bundy owes the agency $1 million in unpaid fees and penalties. However, in the previous article, a different writer in the Oregonian had challenged the BLM's exorbitant claims and pointed out that the agencies refused to divulge how it arrived at its calculations. In an article entitled "BLM Won't Back Up Claim Rancher Cliven Bundy Owes $1 Million," Oregonian staff writer Les Ziat reported that BLM officials say Bundy kept $1 million he owes for grazing without permits. Yeah, you don't need permission, but that sum is unproven, noted Ziat. And agency's diligence in collecting any sum from Bundy is questionable, the Oregonian continued. Bundy told the Oregonian Thursday he doesn't own anything. And one more thing, I've never been billed. The BLM's public pronouncement about the debt that led to head scratching among Oregon cattle ranchers, puzzled how one rancher could rack up and then evade such a debt. The BLM, which manages about 1/4 of Oregon's acreage, diligently collects fees from ranchers around the state. The total outstanding debt from Oregon ranchers in April was $18,759. Interesting there, huh? BLM officials, however, have repeatedly refused to document the basis of their $1.1 million claim, and initially wouldn't say a word about its attempts to collect the debt. According to Zaid, Bundy is suspicious about the figure. He said agency officials were publicly saying he owed $300,000 in fees in the weeks leading up to the confrontation. BLM is keeping secret how the $1 million was calculated, the Oregonian reported. So it says here the BLM just being a bunch of drama queens, allegedly speaking. Yeah, drama queens, okay? And I continue on here. In addition, many other unsavory facts began coming out about the BLM's actions in the Bundy case. The agency's stature earned another black eye last week from the Nevada staff who initially agreed to, Nevada sheriff who initially agreed to help the BLM gather up Bundy's cattle. The Oregonian reporter Clark County Sheriff Doug Gillespie said in interviews with Las Vegas newspapers last week that the BLM lied to him about circumstances of the cattle roundup. He said the agency officials told him Bundy's sons weren't in the area when in the fact they were. He said he was told the agency had a place to store the cattle when it didn't. BLM critics says this is a standard operating procedure for the Bureau of Line I like that, miscreants. I like that. That's pretty good. They point to, among many other pieces of evidence, harsh rulings against the BLM and USFS by Chief Judge Robert C. Jones of the Federal District Court of Nevada, especially in the case of Nevada rancher Wayne Hodge, which we have quoted many times, but which have been ignored by the major media. As we reported previously, Chief Judge Robert C. Jones of the Federal District Court of Nevada issued a blistering decision that charged officials of the BLM and other agencies with malicious and criminal conduct and actually engaging in decades of long conspiracy against the Hodges. Judge Jones said he found that the government and the agents of the government in the locale sometime in the 70s and the 80s entered into a conspiracy, a literal intentional conspiracy to deprive the Hodges of not only their permit grazing rights for whatever reason, but is also to deprive them on their vested property rights under the Talkings Clause, and I find that a sufficient basis to hold that there is irreparable harm if I don't restrain the government from continuing that conduct. In the present case, declared Judge Jones, the government's actions over the past 2 decades shock the conscience of the court. Findings of Judge Jones in the Hodge case should be borne in mind. Tensions mount in Clark County, where the actions of the BLM are shocking of the conscience of the entire nation. While sympathetic and supportive of the Bundys and other family farmers and ranchers who are being subject to illegal and unconscionable actions by federal public servants, the New American Magazine and its writer have not been advocates of all actions and tactics by choosing the Bundys and its supporters in either Nevada or Oregon standoffs, which is fair. I would say fair enough. However, as we predicted in 2014, lawsuits and tyrannical abuse, a part of the federal agencies were inevitability to lead to more desperate property owners choosing confrontation to capitulation and ruin. We're friends with the Hodges and we support them, Cliven Bundy told a reporter in 2014. But look what happened to them. They fought the Forest Service and BLM in the courts for years and decades and won ruling after ruling. They exposed the criminal actions of the government, and every time they won the government using their own money against them, appeals and delays, and ignores the judge's injunctions. They all have the resources and just can wear you down. It's corruption. It is impossible to get justice. That's why we say we have to fix it according to the Constitution, which says Article 1, Section 8, the federal government isn't even supposed to have the land. It belongs to the states and to the people. And they're absolutely correct. So the whole thing is, the truth of the matter is, it's credibility of the federal government. Okay, we're not saying some of these people here, the Bundys and so forth, may not be 100% innocent. Okay, I'll be very fair. And how accurate is the information? Can't say 100%. I'm not so sure, but I'll say that in good faith. But the truth of the matter is, credibility of the federal government is in cahoots. They've been screwing around with people for so many years. Now with technology, we can send this thing like wildfire, creating brush fires and dents to tyranny. And this is just an example why the federal government, what they're doing is dead wrong and needs to be downsized on a constitutional basis. Too much centralization does affect a nation. Even if you read Federalist Papers 46 by James Madison, okay, it talks about that, about when the federal government encroaches on states' rights and so forth, and the people. All right, and the 10th Amendment is very essential. So if there's some federal law or some bureaucrat crap, the 10th Amendment stands. But the whole thing is that's property rights and principles, natural law. Not because they say so, well, we're the federal government, we can do what you want. You know what, you can't even wipe your own behinds in Washington, D.C. So, you get out of these people's lives, let them do their thing. If you can't handle it, quit your job and work at a Walmart, okay? I'm not saying everyone who works in these entities are bad folks, but you got a bunch of clowns in there who are insecure, can't even pop a pimple on their rear end, okay? Just to let you know, that's how I really feel about this. It's not being anti-government at all. It's just I define all forms of tyranny, okay? Plain and simple. If you're offended by this, who the hell cares? Turn it off. Don't even listen to my show again. But if you do, spread the word, all right? So this is how I see things, because based on past history, past practice. Like the BATFE, what happened in Waco, okay? I wasn't so sure about it first, but I have taken the initiative to examine it a lot more thoroughly. Even I saw how when they ran those tanks over into the compound on CNN, I call them treasonous bastards. If you guys are involved in there, yeah, I'm calling you guys out as well. You're a bunch of treasonous slime bags. That's all I have to say. So the whole thing is, the people are waking up, and I see this a lot. So the truth of the matter is, everything has to be accurate as possible, but always observe responsibly. Even myself, sometimes I have my passion gets in the way, but you gotta examine things more thoroughly and accurately. But the credibility, in my view, the credibility of the federal government is very unsanitized. I'm saying that politely, okay? So hopefully this will end peacefully and justice will prevail for these individuals. I say no victim, no crime. Plain and simple. All right. So next one here, cool little nice little article. And I forgot. I'm saying it came out today, right? I think it did. Prosecutors. Oh yeah, it came out yesterday, by the way, by Matt Fremer. So it's real good stuff here. Came out yesterday, and it goes here. Sometimes prosecutors are almost never prosecutors are almost never disciplined for misconduct. In 1994, Anthony Graves was convicted of charges of setting a fire that killed six people in South Texas. He spent the next 18 years in prison, 12 of them on death row. On two separate occasions, he came close to execution for all the crimes he didn't commit. But Graves was spared the death penalty long enough to get an appeal. A closer look at the case eventually revealed that Graves was an innocent man who was railroaded by Charles Sebesta, a Texas prosecutor who withheld evidence and presented false testimony to secure a conviction against Graves. More than a decade later, a federal appeals court would overturn the conviction. Graves was freed and later filed a complaint against Sebesta seeking his disbarment. The Texas Board of Disciplinary Appeals sided with Graves, calling Sebesta's conduct egregious and has revoked his right to practice law. As of this week, Sebesta now is finally disbarred. While Sebesta's actions may appear obviously condemnable to the casual observer, expert says it's actually surprised that he was punished for them. It's almost unheard of, U.S. Circuit Judge Alex Konzinski told the Huffington Post. Konzinski is a leading voice on a prosecutorial misconduct who famously wrote in a 2013 opinion that the problem had epidemic levels in the U.S. Prosecutors are rarely punished for misconduct, and the cases that have led to disbarment or even criminal charges are few and far between. When prosecutors do face severe consequences for breaking the law, and when their behavior is deemed to be deliberate and seemingly indefensible, at the same time, their punishment may not be proportional to the damage they have inflicted upon innocent people, which illustrates the considerable latitude the legal process affords to prosecutors. That's interesting there, huh? For example, take disgraced former prosecutor Mike DeFong, who was involved in the 2006 Duke lacrosse case in which 3 members of the team were falsely accused of rape. DeFong, among numerous serious legal misdeeds, was accused of misleading presentations of evidence, including withholding DNA evidence, yet spent a grand total of 24 hours in jail following his disbarment. In the 2013 case of Ken Anderson, the former Texas prosecutor and judge ultimately pled no contest to felony charges of criminal contempt of court for intentionally withholding evidence in the case against Michael Morton, an innocent man who wrongfully spent 25 years in prison for the murder of his wife. For his violation of the Constitution, Anderson was forced to give up his license to practice law, was ordered to perform 500 hours of community service, and to spend 10 days in jail. The first prosecutor ever go to jail for wrongfully convicting an innocent man. These 3 cases by far represent some of the most severe sanctions even lobbed against criminal prosecutors accused of serious misconduct. Prosecutors are the most powerful government agents in the American criminal justice system. With more than 2,300 offices across the nation, they have complete and unrivaled access to evidence that can determine a person's guilt or innocence. Multiple Supreme Court rulings over the years have sought to chip away unilateral power of prosecutors, requiring them to provide any and all evidence to the defense that might be favorable to the defendant. But this puts defense attorneys on the back foot as they are forced to blindly trust that prosecutors will turn over all the evidence. Well, I remembered, what's his name? Howard Finkelstein did a talk about that, about how the lawyers in Broward County, because he's considered a public defender, elected public defender in Broward County, talking about how many slime bags are in the court system, bunch of vulturized parasites. Okay, so and I see these guys all the time, and they go, "Well, I'm an attorney." You know, my reply is, "Well, you suck at it." They don't like people like that can't stand me, which is very inspiring. It cleanses the contamination around me. All right. So it says here, prosecutors can also cut deals with witness, co-conspirators, and defendants to compel someone to testify. They can pile on charges, produce sentences so excessively severe they take your breath away. To strong-arm someone into taking a plea to reduce that sentence. If prosecutors can't find someone to talk, they can always turn to a jailhouse snitch who may be available to coax out a damning bit of evidence from a jailed defendant. That testimony obtained illegally or otherwise can often be used to lock down a conviction. And in the end, prosecutors are largely shielded from a liability that might result from their actions thanks to a Supreme Court rule granting that absolute immunity. They see the Supreme Court should be smacked upside the head for that. That's how pathetic some of these clowns are. It's probably been around long before the Obama administration. I wouldn't be surprised, okay? They don't deserve immunity. They deserve jail time like everyone else. If you're going to lie to the people, that's called perjury. If you're going to put people in jail that are innocent, you should get double that through due process. Not a slap on a wrist. Totally unacceptable. Of course, the vast majority of prosecutors have behaved ethically, but even one bad actor in the prosecutor's case can have significant impact on countless defendants and cases. And based on the data that is available, it's clear that there are more than just a few bad apples. There are disturbing indications that non-trivial number of prosecutors and sometimes entire prosecutorial offices engage in misconduct that seriously undermines the fairness of criminal trials. Krasinski wrote last year in a landmark paper critiquing the criminal justice system. The misconduct ranges from misleading the jury to outright lying in court and tactically acquiescing or actively participating in the presentation of false evidence by police. Has happened many times. The trouble is identifying the misconduct because of such of what prosecutors do is behind the scenes, gathering evidence and working with police and investigators as they build their case. Malfeasance is often not discovered until years, sometimes decades after a person has been convicted. In many cases, it's never discovered at all. But the data that is available on prosecutorial misconduct clearly points out to a problem that is steady and widespread. Misconduct by police and prosecutors occurs with such frequency that it has become one of the primary causes of wrongful convictions, according to the Innocence Project. A 2013 Center for Prosecutorial Integrity illustrated just how rare it is for prosecutors to face punishment of any kind, using data from 9 major studies that analyze the prosecutorial misconduct at both state and national levels. CPI identified 3,625 cases between 1963 and 2013. Of those, only 63 prosecutors, less than 2%, were ever officially sanctioned for their wrongdoing. And on the rare instances when prosecutors were disciplined, they frequently received a slap on the wrist, the CPI report reads. There has also been a significant spike in exonerations in recent years. While this phenomenon used to be rare, wrongful convictions have soared, with more overturned in 2015 than any year in history. And while not every wrongful conviction involves a misbehaving prosecutor, a significant portion do. But identifying the misconduct is only part of the equation. Meaningful discipline must then follow as a further deterrent. That can't and doesn't happen when there is no willing to prosecute the prosecutors. State authorities are ill-equipped to tackle prosecutorial impropriety for a variety of reasons, says Daniel Mewed. A law professor at Northeastern University who has written about this phenomenon in depth. Those reasons can range from the general style of case to that of skepticism over complaints filed by criminal defendants who may simply be seen as disgruntled by authorities and not be taken as seriously as they perhaps should be. But there may be something more intangible and persuasive at play. Medwed told HuffPost he believes there is an ingrained culture across criminal justice offices that he has created a system in which lawyers are reluctant to take on prosecutors even when they are behaving badly. Prosecutors are politically powerful people who do a tough job under arduous circumstances, he said. I think lawyers often give them a benefit of the doubt. This is a huge problem. We must hold them accountable. To that end, the best of disbarment is at least step in the right direction, but it remains an outlier to the broader trend. To further curb bad behavior, stricter rules must be implemented to crack down on the prosecutors who engage in misconduct, and those rules must be fortified with the promise of stiff and certain punishment for anyone who would undermine the principle of justice in pursuit of an unjust conviction. And that person is correct. You need stiffer sentences for these corrupt vultures in this particular entity. I'm not saying they're all bad. Absolutely not. All right. And this is why there's evidence that they're trying to hold on to people and they try to bring it to the trial and the judge don't like it, right there is a potential smoking gun. They may be behind something, my friend. That's why, as a juror, you're the most powerful people in the courtroom. You don't really need to hear the instructions. Just follow your conscience. Ninth Amendment guaranteed. Natural law. If you believe the law is bad law, it's been poorly implemented, you still say not guilty. You guys, they want you to be dumb, stagnant, happy. They don't want you to be free thinkers. They want you to be a bunch of peasants. Yes, boss, no, boss. The judge is only a mediator, including the prosecutor. He is not powerful than you in the courtroom. You always have to see it that way. Don't be afraid when you're on jury duty. I hear people on Facebook, I'm going on jury duty. Stop being a bunch of crybabies and take action, because if you don't, you're part of the problem. You can make a difference. One person can hang a jury. All right, and it was asbestos conduct being revoked as a slap on the wrist. But you know what? If you see him, use him. I'll say that if you see him, just treat him, just use him as a dumpster. You know, just throw stuff at him as a dumpster. So I don't. So guys like him, it's a bunch of corrupt vultures. And you know what? At least it's just the beginning. But you got to be more vigilant and pursue this a lot further. And that's why you got to check it on the state level. Okay, an attorney general to have all these powers to let them know that these guys ain't crap. You want to be hot shots to see how many people they can persecute without true justice? You get them out, you chase them out, you call them out. And that's all I got to say about that. So it's a real good article. I give the person credit. And this is one thing that's pretty interesting. Came from the American Thinker. Came out, I think it came out, yeah, they came out today, right? Yeah, they came out today, if I'm correct. I just found this on, I found this on Twitter. I follow this gentleman. Okay, the site American Thinker. It's pretty good. You gotta always observe responsibly, of course. And it says here as a blog, Bernie Sanders' first promise has already fallen on his face. And it reads here, the siren along Bernie Sanders is singing for young, naive idealists in the Democratic Party has already gotten out of tune with reality. Shelley Capura, Bloomberg reports. Bernie Sanders' pitch to Democrats is that all new voters who energize will compel Congress to support the transformative programs they want, like single-payer health care and free college tuition. I think what we need when I talk about the political revolution is bringing millions and millions of people into the political process in a way that does not exist right now, said the Vermont senator told MSNBC in an interview set Thursday. The final tests are in, and the signs of a revolution at the ballot box are scant. Rather than a surge of the previously disaffected Democratic turnout was down in the first two states holding a contest in the nomination race. 28% in Iowa and 13% in New Hampshire. Ooh, interesting. There's links for that too, folks. You can check it out yourselves. In Iowa, 172,000 Democrats took part in the party caucuses. The number in 2008 were 240,000. In New Hampshire primary on Tuesday, 251,000 Democrats voted. The number in 2008 was 288,000. That's an interesting message there, my friends. What would you say? Voters, in other words, are staying away in droves, except that is for Republican voters. Meanwhile, Republican voter turnout broke records in both states, rising from 2008 and 15,000 levels to 15,000 in Iowa and 33,000 in New Hampshire. The siren song Bernie Sanders is singing for young, naive idealists in the Democratic Party has already gotten out of tune with the reality. I don't know why it's been going on again. I'm just trying to. It's always been repeated here. Yeah. That's really it. Okay, well, what can you say, my friends? What can you say? Because the truth of the matter is, people are seeing the light, you know? And what gets me laughing, everyone's trying to follow the hype. Feel the hype. I hate the Bill of Rights, but you want free crap, yeah. Okay, you guys. And so they want us to, they want to think Bernie Sanders is our Lord and Savior, and you know what? He's not. And of course, Hillary Clinton's in cahoots as well because a lot of stuff's being exposed. More and even people, even who are Democrats, are tired of the Clinton dynasty. Like many of the Republican voters are tired of the Bush dynasty, and more independents. If I'm correct, more independent voters are being independents or non-party affiliates because they are tired of the political party system. As I always say, it's in good faith, my friends. Two separate wings from the same vulture, tyrannical vulture that is. So it's interesting that there's more of a Republican turnout, according to this, than the Democratic turnout. Well, how many of them are independents? And you got to look at the other thing as well, is that New Hampshire is an open primary state. It's something to really think about too, open primary state. So you have to see that as well. But like I say, when I hear feel the burn, I never felt the hype. Sorry, Bernie. Nothing personal. Doesn't mean you're always wrong. But a lot of stuff you talk about is anti-freedom, just like your so-called opponent, Hillary Clinton, and the jugheads from the GOP. All right? Bread and circuses, my friends. That's how I see it. And you know what? I'm not going to do any music, so to end this show. I do apologize for that. But I would like to say thank you for everyone who listened to this episode. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, compliments, criticisms, love letters, hate letters, or you want to send me something that's pretty cool to check out, that'd be great. However, please send your correspondence with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, YouTube, worldtruth.org, or scene.life. SEEN.LIFE. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3. It's the number 3 is all together at gmail.com. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.